Hello, everyone. Jim Coventry from RotoWire, NFL Today, news and notes. Let's start out. These are the last couple days, okay? These notes come from Thursday and Friday. Let's start out with Julio Jones signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The first thing I want to point out is, look, Tom Brady's a quarterback. He understands the culture of winning Super Bowls. Players come into play with him. They are not going to overuse Julio Jones with sights being set on a Super Bowl. Julio Jones will be on the field when healthy quite a bit, but I don't think his snaps go much beyond 30 per game. But what does that mean? If he's on the field in obvious passing situations, when the team is trailing, whenever that happens, well, be a fair number of times, not too many. They're a very good team. Will probably win 11, 12 games. But I think Julio Jones will be used heavily leveraged in the red zone. And a lot of people will say, well, Julio Jones never scored a lot of touchdowns. Understand, Matt Ryan was an excellent quarterback with Jones, but when Julio was bracketed in the end zone, Matt Ryan would often find somebody who was single covered or open and would just go the other way. He never force fed Julio the ball in the end zone. But now we go to the Buccaneers. Mike Evans, good luck stopping him in the red zone. And when Chris Godwin's healthy, he also gets open very quickly there. And we know Gronk is retired right now. But nonetheless, Julio Jones is not going to be the focal point of defenses. He already had a leaping grab in the back of the end zone in his first practice. He also showed the ability to get down the field in intermediate routes. So Julio right now is healthy. And I think the Buccaneers' goal is to keep him healthy. Now, where do you draft him in fantasy? So look, right now, I know some high stakes drafts had him going in the 13th round. I think he'll be more aggressive with Julio. And I think his draft stock is going to go up the longer he strings together healthy practices. Look, he's burned people a couple of years in a row, but he's going to a high-octane passing game, limited snaps, but again, leverage snaps. So I think if you're in a best ball league, I think you pop a 9th round, 10th round pick on him because he could have 4 or 5 games with 25 fantasy points. And that's not a stretch. He could easily bust some 100-yard games with multiple touchdowns. That's not a problem. I think in managed leagues where you got to decide who to start every week, I still think his snaps being managed could provide some lower weeks. Mike Evans is going to get his at some point. Godwin is going to get his. So I think you're a little more conservative in managed leagues. And I think if he falls to the 11th or 12th round, at that point, he's a value. You could reach a little higher for him. I think if you really have a good feeling that Julio is going to be more consistently and productive. Remember, Brady threw the ball over 700 times last year. I don't see that changing. So again, Julio Jones, I do think, look, they'll manage his health. So I'm in on him to a degree. All right, Antonio Gibson's in Nexus. I love it. Antonio Gibson, a football player. He has just been fun to watch. But he had toe injury of significance. Last year, he had a cracked shin. Now he has a hamstring injury. Now I get it. Hamstring injuries are very common in training camp. We see them a lot, and a lot of times they go away, but sometimes they linger. But, the body of work and the injuries on Gibson is really concerning me because last year I was heavily invested in him, and there are no sour grapes here. When he was on the field, he still produced. He got me over 1,000 yards. I want to say he got right around 10 touchdowns. He was a good floor play for me. Now, was he worth the ADP? No, but that's okay. He was playing injured and he played well. But I think that's the rub. I think Ron Rivera now sees 2 seasons of injuries and now the hamstring. Again, that could pass quickly. But I still think when Ron Rivera talked about Brian Robinson, being a 1-2 punch with Gibson, and they brought back McKissick. I was wishing he would sign with the Bills. Didn't work out. So McKissick is going to be that passing down back. They wouldn't have brought him back. Gibson had some fumble issues last year. He fumbled 6 times. And so that's going to leave a bad taste in the coach's mouth. So Robinson being the goal line back, he may not be a very good running back. We're not sure quite what he'll be. My friend Mario Puig from RotoWire, he thinks that Brian Robinson was really aided by his situation at Alabama and really is not an above average running back. But again, goal line work is a different beast, especially if he hangs onto the ball. So look, with Gibson, he's going in about the 6th round of most fantasy drafts. And look, if he breaks out and he gets on the field and he's healthy, he could make it so the coaches can't take him off the field. He's that good. But there's apprehension as to whether he'll be on the field. So I think at this point, look, if you want to swing for the fence, a 6th-round pick is a really good place to do that. And Gibson has the talent to be able to shatter his ADP. But don't be surprised if he's in an ugly timeshare all year long and his yardage ends up around 800 or so, and he loses a lot of that double-digit touchdown ability that he has because of losing that significant work. Again, take the swing if you like it, but be very cautious. Tony Pollard's next. So I'm not getting into the debate who's better, Pollard or Gibson. I'd say one thing. Nobody follows his blocks better than Zeke Elliott. He is a master at it, and I believe why they can run their offense the way they want when he's on the field. Now, the line is declining. Right now, Tyron Smith is back. He's often hurt, starting to slide a little bit. They still have Zack Martin, but they have some holes in that line right now. And so Tony Pollard is a better creator. There's no question about that. Now, what I like is, though, Dallas has a talent void right now. Michael Gallup, we're not sure if and when he'll be back, at what point from the ACL injury, but they still are without Amari Cooper. There is a talent drop there. And Tony Pollard's been taking snaps in the slot. I believe that Dallas realizes he is one of their best game breakers and playmakers, I should say. And Tony Pollard could see a lot of time lined up as a receiver. They could run a little more 2 running back sets. Pollard, we know he has standalone value, but he may have even more standalone value. I don't think Zeke Elliott's a bad pick at all where he's going, because we saw last year, even hurt, he is going to get the lion's share of the work. And when he was healthy last year, the first 5 games, he was almost a lock for 100 combined yards. His yards per carry were near 5. It was impressive. I'm going to turn off the mic for a second and cough. Thank you for that. Okay, so anyway, Tony Pollard will have a little more value than anticipated, and he could be a very important cog in that Dallas offense, but that doesn't diminish the value of Zeke Elliott either. Now, Elijah Mitchell, and I know we've had a lot of negative buzz already on him saying, well, he'll be in a rotation at running back. They're working on who's the number 2 guy. He missed 6 games last year, I believe. Yeah. And it was like on 4 different occasions. Right now his knee is good. Mitchell said he put on some weight to hold up better with the timeshare and work he's getting. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to keep repeating this. Elijah Mitchell really gained the praise of Coach Kyle Shanahan, and here's why. In that 49ers run scheme, basically you start running the ball to the outside a bit, and there's a cutback lane. But the cutback lane doesn't develop to the eye until after the cut is made, if the offense is run right. Shanahan loved that Mitchell was able to anticipate that and trust that the hole would be there and then take advantage of it. Other running backs, that's very difficult. Some running backs are very good at it. Been a lot of success in the Shanahan's back to his dad's system going back 20 plus years. But with Mitchell, he'll have the added benefit of his quarterback, Trey Lance. Last year was Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo obviously was a pocket quarterback. Trey Lance is going to put fear into the weak side of opposing defenses, because once they motion him out in RPO action, it's going to be a real problem for defenses, because if they leave that backside vacated, all Lance has to do is tuck the ball and roll around the opposite way, and it is going to be devastating. Those linebackers, unlike last year, are going to be frozen. Mitchell is going to have extra space to work at the line of scrimmage. It is going to be incredible how much more dynamic their rushing attack can be. Now, I know their offensive line took some hits, not as good as it was, but it's really about the system here. George Kittle will block, best blocker other than Gronk at the tight end I think I've seen in a while. I mean, there's obviously blocking tight ends, but I mean, those great 2-way tight ends. And then, we got Trent Brown, and I always get the wrong last name. So it's Trent Williams. I always mix up Brown and Williams. I'm sorry about that. But they have 2 elite blockers. They're going to be good enough. But again, adding Lance, dynamic element. Elijah Mitchell is a steal. And people don't realize how good he is. I think they see that 6th-round draft capital and believe he was a fluke last year. I was in on him before the NFL draft, and I was very frustrated when he fell that far, and then he fell behind, obviously, the 3rd-round pick, Trey Sermon, that fixed itself very quickly. But understand, Mitchell is way better than his draft capital. Allen Robinson. Look, a lot of people keep buzzing about Allen Robinson saying, oh, well, maybe he's not such a good separator. All right. Allen Robinson was running a very, very limited route tree with the Bears last year. It was pathetic what they were having him run. Before the prior 2 seasons, he was phenomenal with the Bears. In the Rams offense, now their beat reporter from The Athletic, Jordan Rodriguez, she's very well connected with the team. She's understanding that Allen Robinson, as I thought, is not just there to be the X receiver. He's lining up all over the formation, including in the slot. They are allowing both he and Cooper Kupp to have the ability to do different things. They are going to be a nightmare for defenses to handle. With Robinson's ability at the catch point, Matthew Stafford is going to work perfectly with him. Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp may both have big seasons. Look, Cooper Kupp's not having that 1,900-yard season again. It was an outlier of all outlier seasons. Cooper Kupp is an amazing player. I had plenty of shares of him last year. Never obviously expected that kind of production, but you can get 1,400 yards out of both of them. That would not surprise me for a minute. Allen Robinson is underrated right now. He is not old. He is healthy right now. He is motivated right now, and he is fitting into the culture of the Rams extremely well. Jordan Rodriguez pointed out how Robinson is meshing with his teammates. This is going to be a great marriage of players and talent. Now over at the New York Jets, Zach Wilson, up and down training camp. That's not really surprising us. A lot of us were not really in on him as a prospect as much, and that's okay. We're not quite sure what he'll be, and we don't always have the definitive answer. But the up and down training camp, he's thrown interceptions in camp. That's been a problem. Now last year, he did throw, in his last 5 starts, he didn't throw an interception. He had thrown 11 in his first 8 starts. So he got better at the risky plays. So that was good. That also coincided with Elijah Moore breaking out. Moore had a slow start to the season. We'll talk about him in a second. I'm still nervous about Zach Wilson. Look, I know he's got weapons. We're not quite sure what Garrett Wilson will be. Corey Davis has been a little up and down. Elijah Moore is a budding star. The line is not bad. Zach Wilson has tools. I just wonder how strong he'll be at the NFL level. Look, if he plays in the preseason games, watch what he's doing. Pay close attention. If he can dominate preseason defenses, at least it's an indicator he might be able to get an upward trend. But if he struggles at all against like a backups on defense with vanilla schemes, that's going to be problematic. So I assume he will play some of the preseason because he needs those reps. So that's one to really watch. Now, Elijah Moore, definitely love the idea of drafting him about the 6th round in fantasy drafts. If you're looking for a receiver there, just remember his first 5 games, he didn't even have 100 yards. And in his last 6, he blew it up. He was on pace to be a strong wide receiver too. He'll play a lot in the slot, which is a great place for him to work with Zach Wilson. And Moore had gotten it done with 3 different quarterbacks. They were rotating quarterbacks because of injuries to Wilson. So again, Moore is the real deal. And I believe he's the highest upside of those receivers, and I believe it's not even close, especially with him playing likely a lot in the slot. Now, Miles Sanders, we have a lot of back and forth about him as well. We look at his numbers, and his numbers usually look pretty good. His yards per carry are always great. And we know he didn't score a touchdown last year. It's bad luck more than anything. But the point I want to make about Miles Sanders, and I believe this is the problem, the team isn't super high on him because I think he's inconsistent. His numbers look good because he'll get the occasional moderate length run to bolster his stats. But I think on a play-to-play basis, he doesn't always read the blocks quite right. Sometimes he'll punch the run outside a little bit too quickly, and he doesn't always take was blocked or what the play design was. And I think those inconsistencies are what keep him from seeing a full workload in the offense. And that's problematic. For fantasy, he'll probably just do what he's done. I mean, the touchdowns obviously will move forward a little bit. I get that. I do think Kenny Gainwell showed well as a receiver and a runner. I think Gainwell's going to be heavily involved as a receiver, but I think he can carve into the rushing for Sanders if he overtakes him a bit. There's a chance that Gainwell comes out of this being a complete lead back. And don't forget with Jalen Hurts, just like I said earlier with the 49ers situation with Trey Lance, it's similar with Jalen Hurts. He terrifies defenses with the ability to paralyze the weak side with his ability to run. And so if Gainwell takes over a 12th, 13th round pick in fantasy drafts, he could be a league winner if he sees as much of that role. Miles Sanders, I think his upside is really capped. A few more points here. Robert Woods says his goal is to be ready in the season opener. And we've known it. The knee brace is off already. He's practicing. He's been able to develop a rapport with Ryan Tannehill. I think overall, I think he comes in and he will be reliable. And I think that's what Ryan Tannehill needs. He needs a professional, reliable receiver. And I know they spent the first round pick on Treylon Burks. Fine, I get it. And he may turn into a good player. But I think Robert Woods is going to be very, very effective this year. Now, I do note that per Warren Sharp, that the easiest schedule, like one of the easiest schedules here is for the Titans. The Titans have an easy run schedule. They went from an extremely difficult one to the easiest. So they may continue to run the ball super heavily and keep Derrick Henry involved, but they're going to have to throw sometimes. Robert Woods is going in the double-digit rounds, and I think he is a steal late because I think he's going to not only catch passes, but I think he's going to put together a good yardage season as well. He'll be a good building block on fantasy teams. Now, you've heard it before. Paris Campbell, I know every year we talk him up, and then every year he gets hurt and disappoints us. But right now, he's beginning training camp as a starting receiver across from Michael Pittman. Now, Alec Pierce is on the outside right now. If Paris Campbell is healthy, you spend a last round pick on him. You could cut him in week 1 or week 2. But if he is there in the starter and he stays healthy, he is super talented. That's all I could say. Again, it's a pick where you could just throw it away later. Not a problem. But that's what we need to understand. Paris Campbell is talented. He's always hurt. But is it worth it? Yes. I think those late round picks, you don't want to pick the guy that you feel compelled to keep on your roster for 10 weeks. I think you want the guy that you can say I can cut bait on in week 2 if there's a hot waiver wire pickup. Green Bay, Romeo Doubs. We talked about him a little bit way in the early offseason, but he's a 4th-round rookie, right? So, we always worry we talk about Christian Watson as a rookie getting the trust of Aaron Rodgers, and that's been a worry. And now, but Watson's missing time with a hamstring as well as Doubs is on the field. He caught a pair of touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers. He had this catch in the middle of the field, got hit hard, held on to the ball. Is it possible he's carving out a role? Possibly. If Aaron Rodgers gets his trust, Rodgers will want him on the field. Doubs, see the difference with Watson and Doubs is Watson, you got to take in the 10th round. Well, Doubs, you can get in high stakes leagues, he's already moving up a little bit, like 16th round. But I think in most leagues, that aren't high stakes, I think you can get him late. And, again, it's that pick where you cut him in week 2 if you don't like him, but it could work out. Devonte Booker is back trying out for the Giants. Last year, he outperformed Saquon Barkley. And I know Barkley was dealing with injury. He had that crazy ankle sprain. But, man, it was, 4.1 yards per carry for Booker, 3.7 for Barkley. They were playing similar snaps. It was interesting. So right now, we saw that Matt Breida was the backup. But look, if Barkley struggles, the Booker could be involved. Now, remember, it's a new coaching staff. Brian Daboll's there, and I'm sure they're going to want to get Barkley heavily involved. But if Barkley is the player he was last year and it wasn't injuries and he has issues, then Devonte Booker is a good late pick. Finally, Marcus Mariota, exclusively running with the starters in training camp. We knew that was the case. He'll probably run some. He's a lower-end QB2. Here's what I need you to know. Listening to Joe Dolan's Fantasy Points podcast where he had the Atlanta Falcons writer on, and he talked about Mariota, and the beat writer felt that once the Falcons are out of contention, they're going to want to see what they have in Desmond Ridder. If that's the case, if you're counting on Mariota in a best ball league to be on the roster all season, it's possible, because they are a very bad team with a very tough schedule, that by week 10 or week 11, we could see them out of the race, and we could see them move to Ridder just to see what they have. So just that's the one thing I want to point out in your best ball leagues. Be careful with that. All right, we'll come back tomorrow and we'll talk a little more NFL training camp news and notes. Everybody have an outstanding day, and we will talk soon.